We're here today with local New England soccer player and clothing brand owner Cameron Okoro. It's great seeing you again, mate. How are you?
It's good. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah,
been a minute.
I know, it's been a while. It's good to catch up again and get your real story here.
Yeah, down to tell it.
And what a location we've got for the first podcast here in Boylston Street at Lear, the local Irish pub in the heart of Boston.
Really appreciate them having us, you know.
Yeah, it's great putting us up here. We've got our own floor, great
Yeah.
location.
As much time as we need.
Exactly.
No pressure.
So let's get started then. So you grew up in Weston, Connecticut.
I was born in Houston, Texas. Moved to Connecticut at the age of 8, and I've been there ever since.
Nice. But I always thought, like, what was life like down there? Like, I always thought it was just a flyover state, and I didn't realize people actually lived down there.
No, I've gotten that quite a bit whenever I mention I live in Connecticut. But I mean, where I personally live, I live in like the woods. Like, honestly, what most people will call the middle of nowhere. I have a friend on the team who's been to my house, and he was telling me how like he didn't know left from right. There's just trees everywhere.
Like you're taking him to a random place.
I remember we were going to go get some food, and he just like had no idea where we were for the first 15 minutes of driving. He's like, "Dude, all I see is trees." Like, I'm like,
just like, yeah, I'm just taking you to the woods. You're done.
This is your last day. Sorry, I should have told you that before you came, but no. But Weston is predominantly white and Jewish, probably like less than 2% black population.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it was a change from Texas.
Yeah,
a big change from Texas.
Tell us about Texas. How did it differ?
Well, Texas, I was obviously much younger. I don't remember much of it because I'm 21 now. I moved when I was like 7 or 8. Texas was hot. Summers were absolutely brutal. I remember getting out of the shower one time a day, it was like probably 112 degrees.
Oh, so a big
Fahrenheit.
change coming to New England then.
Yeah, it was actually coming from like extreme end to extreme end. I remember my first winter in Connecticut was snow halfway up my door. Couldn't even open my front door, and I was like, yeah, this is not where I need to be. Not for me. It's not where I need to be.
So you started playing soccer as a young boy. Then obviously when you were in Connecticut, you started playing at Everton Westchester. How was that?
It was good. I loved it, actually. I first started off at Beachside. I mean, my academy, the road to college, I first started off playing at Beachside my freshman year of high school. Sophomore year, I played high school soccer just to see what it was like. It was really fun. Everton FC Westchester was honestly what got me here. It's the team I played on when I got recruited to Northeastern.
Yeah, I don't know how, because all I saw in your record was bookings.
Oh man, I definitely had my fair share of yellow cards. I had a lot of those. I used to get really mad whenever, like, if our team was losing, which honestly happened a lot less often than you think compared to the bookings. But like, I kind of had a temper back then, so whenever kids would like
back then, you still do that.
You're not wrong at all. Not wrong at all. At least on the field, it was. Whenever kids would like kind of clip me or like walk on my ankles, I'd be like, all right, I'll remember that. And then I remember the ball would come and I'd just clear their legs out.
Yeah, just getting them back.
Of course. I mean, every defender knows that feeling of the tricky winger who thinks he's doing something, and then you're like, all right, let me show you. So to show you that you should probably switch to the other side. Yeah.
So you got two brothers also played soccer.
Yeah.
Did you ever get the chance to play against?
No, I wish. I never got to play with or against. My older brother is 23. Recently graduated UVA last year. My younger brother's 12, so never really got the opportunity. We ran track together, but not soccer. Yeah, sadly.
So, who was the best player in the family then?
At the moment, I think my younger brother. He's on trial at Leicester. Right
really?
Now. Yeah.
That's great. Plugging him there.
Yes. I can't.
If any scouts are listening, you know what to look.
I remember as a kid, when I was younger, I used to always be like, people always tell us, oh, he's going to be the best one. And me still playing soccer at the time, I'm like, yeah, right. This kid's like, at the time, like 7, 8 years old. I'm like, I'm not losing a 7-year-old. But I would not be surprised in the next 3 to 5 years if he was signed to a Premier League club, hopefully. I mean, he's on trial right now, so the sky's the limit. He's 12 years old.
So there must have been some good competition and banter going through that household. You 3 boys growing up. I know you ran track in high school also, so that must have added to it. So
it was just I remember the competition between me and my older brother was so bad that we ended up like hating each other for like most of like our upbringing, because we were only 2 years apart, so we were always close to each other in most of the activities that we did. Track especially, we were on the same 4x4 relay, all-American relay. So, but I remember going to meets and people coming up to me saying, "Are you Simeon's brother?" And I'm like,
yeah, no, I'm Cameron.
Exactly. I'm like, hey, hi, hello, my name's Cameron. I have a name. And that, I remember, it used to really get me angry when I was younger, because I'm like, I'm doing well, like I'm on the same relays as him. I'm running good times, like individual times. I'm competing at states, New England's, nationals, off my own merit, but people are still referring to me as Simeon's brother. So that definitely put a rift between us, even though like it wasn't really his fault. He was kind of just doing his thing. But I took it pretty personally at the time. But we're all, me and him are best of friends now.
Yeah, you've grown up now.
Yeah,
competition's over.
We got rid of that shit a while ago.
So you mentioned it earlier, like that was your road to college. Like when you were starting to like figure out the process of what college to choose, how did you go about that?
Well, I sat down with my dad and he asked me what type of school I wanted to go to. He said, "Would you want a more..." When he first asked me, "Is your goal to go pro?" And at the time, I was like, "Yeah, of course. Every soccer player's dream is to go pro." And he's like, "Okay, well, while I do want you to go pro, I think academics are paramount in our lives, so it should be paramount in yours as well. So we're going to look at more academic schools, but schools that will still give you the opportunity to go pro if you put in the work." And I said, "Okay, that's fair enough." At the time, my older brother was playing at the University of Virginia. They were a top 10 team. Actually, the year before he joined, they had just won the national championship. So he chose a more soccer route more than school, even though UVA is still a great school academically. But so we started looking at my grades in high school and saying, all right, let's look at grades, SAT scores and ACT scores, and see what schools kind of coincide with that and what's possible. So I actually have a list of schools from back then that I dug up.
Really?
Yeah.
You just stole my next question. I was going to say, ended up at Northeastern. What other schools are you looking at?
So, should I just say it, or I'm
go
sorry.
for it. On you go. You stole it. You may as well go for it. Right?
Too late now, right? Well, I mean, I was looking at Michigan, Penn State, Bucknell, American, Lehigh, Rutgers, Princeton, and I think there was one or two more, but I don't remember. Oh, I got Holy Cross. Who else? I had a visit to Wake Forest, but that didn't end up happening, obviously. But yeah, that was it.
Yeah, that's like a lot of variation there as well. Like,
exactly. It was
like there's no two schools I could say that were around about similar there. It's like
right.
all over the place.
Like if I told somebody, hey, I'm looking at Princeton and Penn State, they'd be like, what? They'd be like, I don't understand.
Yeah, you're one side of the spectrum and another side. So
it was, basically, this list was comprised of what I wanted and what my dad wanted. And so
yeah, we can tell what you wanted on that list.
Exactly. I was a young 17, 18-year-old kid. School was not my priority. It was I want to have fun and play soccer, and that, yeah.
So how did you end up deciding to go to Northeastern then in the end?
I think I got the coach, Chris Bondi, was the first one of the not the first, but one of the first 4 or 5 that had reached out. He came to one of my games down in Florida from the showcase. It's either him or Coach Omsberg, and they emailed me within the day saying, hey, we'd like to talk, and we spoke. Went on my visit, and I was like, all right, I like it here. Like, I like Boston. Me growing up in the middle of nowhere, I'm like, I need to experience things. I need to get out to a city. So
yeah.
That kind of cut off a lot of the other schools, because most of the other schools are just campuses in towns, not really cities with nightlife and whatever. So I chose Northeastern mainly because, one, academics, which is box checked off for my dad.
Yeah.
When I went on my visit, I really gelled with some of the guys. I remember I had Johnny, Kevin, Marty, and someone else. There was one other. I think, Jonas and Stone were they were showing me around or whatever.
Yeah.
And we had a great time that night. And maybe 17, 18, I'm like, oh, so this is what college is like. This is pretty cool. Like, I can do this.
Yeah, unknown to you, you were good at Northeastern.
Yeah, until I realized that's not what Northeastern is for at all, known for at all.
So you mentioned like the coaches emailed you within the day at that showcase. That must have made you feel wanted.
Yeah, for sure. I was like, I mean, every player has a confidence. Every good player has a confidence in themselves that, yeah, I'm a good player. Like, I hold myself to a high standard for whatever reason. And yeah, I was over the moon because that was beside Holy Cross at the time, who had given me an offer. I was like, oh, whoa, this is cool. Like, they wasted no time getting in contact with me. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so you'd mentioned a few names on that list. Ended with Jonas and Stone.
Yes.
There were some characters in that team. Like,
of course.
Obviously, I grew up playing with like some of the boys as well. They had to put up with me for 4 years, so good on them at that time. But there was guys from all over the world as well, as you said, like Johnny from Sweden, Martin from Norway, you had Lewis from England.
Exactly.
Like, who was the guy that impressed you the most on that team? Like when you first came into it? Hakeem.
I mean, I came in knowing that I wouldn't start because of Hakeem, and Bondi said, I want you to kind of just freshman year, I want you to watch him and just see what he does. Sadly, Hakeem was injured almost all freshman, freshman year. But I remember going to when I went on my visit, I was watching you guys play. That was when you scored the banger. You know exactly. The goal.
Tell me again. What one?
I think it was like 20-25 yards out, just top net, volley top net. Wow, I was like, all right, well, okay, these guys are serious. But I remember Hakeem was almost near flawless that game. Was just taking people on, defending. Just slide tackling was everything that I wanted to be as a defender, and I was just amazed, and I was like, yeah, I want to be like him or better than him.
So would you say he was a player you kind of looked up to then when you first were like considering college and considering coming to Northeastern?
Yeah, I mean, when I got there, he wasn't it was an unofficial visit, so he wasn't sure I was coming, but he kind of just like took me, like put his arm around me, he was like, hey, like. He knew I was African just off my name, so that was the first kind of connection we made, and we kind of just went from there. And then when I left, I kind of just loved like the brotherhood-ish feeling that I got off of like an 8 to 12 hour visit. So I was like,
yeah.
So that was kind of what pulled me in.
Yeah, that's an important part, especially in college and the college athletics as well, like creating that brotherhood.
Exactly.
What was it like at Northeastern in terms of the brotherhood?
It was freshman year was arguably one of the best years of my life in terms of brotherhood, because I don't know if whoever's listening to this knows, but all the soccer guys freshman year all live in Whitehall, and we all lived right next to each other, like down the hall, 3rd floor. So that was eating together, seeing each other at practice, all in the same classes, just together all the time. And I felt like I had, obviously the older guys on our team were I was close to as well, but it felt like those 9 to 10 guys were just like my literal brothers. Like, we fight all the time, we laugh, go out, like all the time, talk about anything. I feel like, yeah, extension of a family.
Yeah, you mentioned Dare going out. There must have been some nights out, all the lads living in Boston together.
Oh man,
is there any memorable stories you can tell us, or are they all lip sealed?
Oh no, I mean, I'm done now. I don't care.
Throw the boys under the bus.
No. I remember there was a time where it was after a game. Some of us weren't supposed to. We were told not to go out that night. Did it anyways. Got in trouble for it later because somebody accidentally, quotation marks for people who can't see, accidentally told the coaches, and we got in some trouble for it. That was probably one of the worst memories. I was terrified at the time because I'm like, oh, I'm getting kicked off the team. Like, they told us not to go out. We went out and we got caught for it. Like, I'm done. Like, this is it. Fortunately, that wasn't the end at the time. But I mean, in terms of good memories, I can't even tell how many. If my Snapchat and my phone is just full of just videos of us having the best times at MIT, just everywhere. Am I going out? I can't even. There's too many to draw on. Like, I wish.
Is there one story that sticks out to you though?
One story, man. I remember. I think it was one of the first nights we went out. It was 10 of us, and like, if for people who are listening to this, trying to go out with 10 guys to a frat party just does not work. But luckily, I knew my friend from high school, Hamilton. He's on the basketball team at MIT. He's in one of the fraternities, so he like kind of green lighted us and let us in. And I remember us kind of all just standing there, just like looking around, like, yeah, like just seeing like a bunch of people, loud music, drinks, everything, and we're just like we're all like looking at each other, smiling ear to ear, like
it's like we've made it.
Like,
we're here.
Like boys, like I think it was after like one of the hardest weeks of practice, and we were just like dropped to our knees, like thank God, like a party. Finally, we can have some fun. Like some fun that doesn't involve us being sore the next day.
Yeah. So you mentioned like having fun and stuff, but there was tough times like coming through at Northeastern for you. Like, tell us what your honest experience was like there.
Freshman year and sophomore, or I'm trying to think.
Whatever you want to tell us. Like,
freshman year, the team wasn't. We didn't really play well. I think we had one win. It's either one or three. We had 3 wins that season. So, and I think there were like 11 1-goal games. It was just like the feeling of just being just not good enough, or like just not holding on, or one person, like we play well all game, have like 9 shots on target. The team will shoot 1 time, and it'll like deflect off somebody and go, and we lose 1-0, and that was just really demoralizing for the group at the time. And it caused a rift between the younger guys and the older guys. Because a lot of the younger guys were playing a lot. A lot of the seniors would play, and a lot of the freshmen would play. But there were some guys in between who weren't really too happy about that, and that caused some trouble. And I remember by the end of freshman year, or closer to the end of freshman year, during spring season, we kind of had like a group meeting, kind of just to hash everything out, because we knew that moving forward as a team, we couldn't operate the way we were operating to be successful. It just wasn't possible. I think overall, including academic, school and soccer encompassing, school, it was an adjustment because I came from a pretty good public high school, but again, it's Northeastern, and I didn't get here solely off of my grades, and that showed. That was very apparent in my first exam. I was like, oh, I can't.
Yeah, wake up call for you.
Yeah, it was a huge wake up call. I was like, what is this? Is Chinese. I went to my calc exam and I was like, what is this? I don't understand this.
Yeah, I had the same problem. Don't worry.
Language. Like, I don't know what this is.
So you mentioned the rift in between like some of the boys like during that tough time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, was there any times where that kind of escalated during practice, or?
Oh yeah, all the time. That's not all the time, but there definitely were. It happened more often than not. There were times where there's on field like yelling, whatever, the usual what happens when people get mad. Then there was stuff in the there were a couple locker room fights during games. There was there were yeah, I don't really want to bring back old stuff for whoever's. I just don't need that. But for the most part, there definitely were a lot of misconceptions between people, and even from coaches to players, players to players, things of that nature. Yeah.
So how did you get over that as a team? Like the hurdles?
The freshman guys kind of banded together I told you guys we were brotherhoodish. So we kind of consoled and confided in each other and our problems. And like I said earlier, we had the meeting at the end of the spring season that we kind of just hashed everything out and tried to we said that anybody who had a problem with anybody, address it right now or let it or that's it. Like everybody kind of
just kind of lay all your problems out now. Exactly. Let's get over it.
And it was not pretty. It needed to be done, but it was not pretty. There were arguments. There was no physical fighting, of course, but there were arguments. But everything was, for the most part, hashed out. And yeah, it was. We had a couple of team bonding experiences when we had some. I forget where they were from. It was a coach had some guys. I wasn't from the military, but a military-esque program where they come in and we did team building exercises. I didn't go because I was sick. I had a fever, which he thought I was faking for whatever reason, but then I had to literally go and show him my thermometer, like I have a 109 fever, like I'm dying here.
Yeah, I can't move.
Like I have to go to the hospital. Like, and he's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And Nate had to tell him, like, yo, like this kid is sick, like he's not faking it. And that was another thing. Yeah.
So obviously you came here as a young boy, freshman year. Mm-hmm. You got thrown in against Stanford.
Oh man,
how was that game against the #1 team in the nation at the time?
Exhilarating. I remember I didn't start that game and I was kind of pissed, but who wouldn't want to play against the #1 team in the country and play as much as they can?
Playing on that field as well.
That field was just heaven. It was the best grass I've probably ever played on. Just watered perfectly. The ball just grass cutters just glides on the floor. It was nice because these are some people that you see on social media, whatever. They're on the national team pool. They're in this. They're in that. Whatever. and you're like playing against them, and we lost 1-0, and like that, I think we were the only team in the country to hold them to like a 1-0 game that whole season. So we were, I think that was when they won their second national championship out of the three-peat.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so much fun. I enjoyed every minute of it. Just hustling. I had some of my best plays of that season against Stanford. So I mean, rising to the occasion has always kind of been my thing.
Yeah, it's always been like a great challenge. Like for you especially, like you look up to people. Like seeing your big brother as a challenge, seeing Stanford as a challenge.
Exactly.
Did you ever feel like after that Stanford game that you weren't challenging yourself enough?
Yes and no. I would say no because my goal was to start, and at the time I wasn't starting, so I knew I was still working towards something. But we didn't play a team of that caliber again. Though the closest team was probably SMU or Cal Berkeley. Those were the only two teams who were close to Stanford in quality, but in terms of like internal kind of pushing myself, I was always pushing myself, asking questions, having film sessions with Amsberg, all those type of things.
Yeah, so you are an ambitious kid, and like right now you've started your own clothing brand, so you're also the swaggiest guy I know. Like,
Thank you.
So let's tell us about that. Like, how did the idea all come about in the first place?
Sophomore year. This is midway through. I had stopped playing at the time. I was still living with three of the soccer guys. So they were still going to practice, and I had a lot of time to myself to kind of just think, because they're at practice, they're away for games. I'm in the room by myself a lot of the times, so it kind of gave me some time to think about. All right, I kind of had an identity crisis in a way, because I've been identified myself as an athlete, right? So I wasn't running track, I wasn't playing soccer. So who was I, right? So I kind of thought, all right, like, what can I do to like keep myself busy, to do something that like I actually like what's something in my life that I didn't really see it at the time as something that was like prevalent, but like something that I always kind of wanted to keep in mind. So I'd always liked clothes. My mom has been a fashion designer for like 30 years. She used to make clothes for like Hakeem Olajuwon from the Rockets, Charles Barkley, Elton John, like back in the day. Like
some big names in there,
right? She was doing it. She's from London actually. Moved here with my dad. That's another story. But sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
No worries. So,
again?
like with your mum being a fashion designer, do you think she was someone you kind of looked up to then on that stage of things? Like when you first came with the idea.
Yeah, she was over the moon. She was like, she said, in my wildest dreams, I never thought you'd be interested in fashion at all. And I was like, to be honest, me neither. I mean, I'd always been. Not like I hadn't been tuned into fashion, like what's going on, like what's coming out, this and that. Kind of like how we soccer players are about cleats and about players, and like games and Champions League and things of that nature. That's kind of how I started getting into it. I started watching like runway shows. I mean, I don't want to like skip. I feel like I'm kind of skipping sections. I don't know.
Tell us what your story was like when starting it, and then building it up from where it was at the beginning, from an idea to what it is now.
A lot of it was just sitting in my room drawing. I remember I wouldn't. My roommates would kind of come in and be like what's that? And I'm like, nothing, bro. Like, because it was just me drawing. Like it's nothing yet. Like I can't be like, oh, I'm gonna start this, and like I didn't want to do that. I kind of wanted to just see, like, because at that time I wasn't sure this is what I wanted to do. I started drawing, and the main reason why I started was because I couldn't afford the clothes that I wanted. All the stuff that I wanted was the expensive stuff, because nicest stuff is expensive stuff. So I'm like, all right, if I can't afford it, I might as well just make it. And I realized that my mom, she has a store in like a warehouse with just full of materials. I'm like, all right, like I already have like a barrier of entry that stops a lot of people. I'd already passed, because I kind of had like a cheat code, because my mom, she's like, whatever, any materials you want to use, like go for it. Just anything you need, just I'm here for you to help you. And that was like really big. That was, at the time, my dad wasn't really supporting at the time, because he was still in the mindset of, I'm a soccer player, like you're just gonna transfer somewhere else and play somewhere else. And I was kind of like, nah, it's not really.
Yeah, you had a different kind of vision in your mind at that point. Your eyes had been opened.
Exactly. It was because I had been like, since I was a kid, since I can remember, all I've known is sports and athletics. I never really cared about anything else besides sports. So when I kind of finally saw the world as like, all right, like what else is out there that could be for me, it kind of just broadened my horizons, broadened my mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like you mentioned, like broaden your horizons. Is this a way kind of for you to express yourself as well?
For sure. I've always, I mean, young when I was a kid, I used to like really care about what people thought of me, and like at this point, like that's just not a thought in my head. I kind of just do what I want to do when I want to do it because I don't have anyone to report to. Soccer team, you have to be placed at certain times. Where you have to wear certain things at certain times. You can't do this. You can't do this. You can do that. You can't do this. Like there are rules and things you have to follow. And like at the moment, I don't really have that. And that's, I guess I didn't realize it at the time, but I guess it's kind of what I've always been looking for. Like, I mean, even as a player, like I started off as like an attacker winger because I wanted to express myself, do flashy moves, get past people, score goals, that type of thing. And I guess that kind of translated over and into clothes. And the type of stuff that I make isn't typical in terms of what I guess what's coming out and what I've made already. But I've gotten like nothing but I get 90 to 95% positive and constructive feedback from people, and I don't know. It's just kind of it's nice to know that you're good at other things because I mean, as only being an athlete, you don't know that it's untested, right? So you think you're good at something, but you don't really know until you've really made a product and put it out there for it to be judged.
Yeah, you want someone to kind of give you that feedback and give you that encouragement at the same time.
And once you start, and once I kind of got the first one, I kind of just took it and ran. I was like, all right, like I have. And the way I started it is I made sure I didn't want to show my friends, right? Because my friends they're always going to tell, for the most part, they'll tell you what you want to hear. Like, oh yeah, that's dope, that's cool. But like I kind of just threw it on Instagram. Like, all right, tell me what you think. Got really good feedback, like DMs from like, oh, I didn't know you were doing this. Like, this is so cool. And I'm like, oh, like, all right, cool. This is something that's possible. And then from there, I kind of just started working.
So tell us about some of the products that you've got out there just now.
Now I've got a lot of flannels, like multi flannels, like three, 4 color flannels. Most of those sold out. I have like 1 or 2 left. I make a lot of denim. I like denim a lot, like jeans, jackets. Most of my stuff has been denim. I'm starting to work with other materials because I guess as a designer, you kind of want to, or just me myself, I kind of want to push myself to work with things that aren't normal, but I kind of want to make them look good to where it's normal for people who aren't really into fashion. They're like, oh, they see something, they see it, and they're like, oh wow, that's cool. Like that's something I probably don't have in my wardrobe. Something that I could add it and I could fit it in with other things in my wardrobe, and it would be seamless. And that's kind of like my goal when I design things. That's kind of how I try to think when I'm designing, like quality and functional, because a lot of people who are creative kind of just make things that at the time don't really look viable or like really functional. Like it looks cool in concept, but like when you put it on, you're like, oh, like what am I gonna wear this with? What, like shoes, pants, jacket, like whatever. But I try to kind of merge those two things together so it's seamless and it kind of reaches a wider audience and things of that nature.
What kind of like stuff are you planning for the future then? I know you said you've got a few surprises in there. Can we get a quick scoop?
I have a drop coming hopefully first week of April. So hopefully y'all watch out for that.
Give him a look on his Instagram page. Go on, plug it.
Yeah,
you want to plug it here.
Plug myself. It's my brand's called Okoro. Part of my last name. My last name is Okoro. You can follow me at a Spike C joint, ASPIKECEE, and then the word joint, all one word. And then in my Instagram bio, if you click on it, there's an ad. If you click on it, that's my business page. Go follow that. Buy my stuff.
There we go. Get him out there.
Buy it. Go buy that.
If you want to look swaggy, then I'd give it a look.
I got for the drop that's coming. I got a lot of pre-orders, a lot more pre-orders than I thought. So it's nice to know that I'm kind of going in the right direction, vision-wise and just literal monetary-wise. Like I know that I'm putting in a lot of money. Like I'm on co-op right now. I save 70% of every check, put it into my savings account. 20% out of the 30% that I have is for business operations. 10% is for living expenses. So like I've kind of been like had to come to terms with myself of living broke for the next couple of years. But like I know that I'm not actually broke because I'm still saving up money. But
you're investing it in yourself.
Investing in myself, exactly.
And that's a big thing. Like a lot of people forget to invest in themselves. They're like, oh, let's invest in this, that, whatever. But you might have a good idea out there. You should just go with it. This is proof of it. And
that's what I think kind of hinders a lot of people. And I don't know about I don't want to say athletes especially, or actually, yeah, athletes, because I know what LeBron was saying, like, we're more than athletes. We're, like, LeBron is the epitome of what I would want to be, like, someone who kind of encompasses their field and kind of reaches into other things. Like, LeBron has a school. Like, what basketball player you know is just, most basketball players in the NBA are thinking, I just need to play basketball, make a lot of money, and I just chill. But LeBron's like, no, I kind of want to do more with it. And I'm not really sure what I want to do later on in terms of more things, in terms of like what avenue I want to go into, but I know I want to do more than just fashion. I want to kind of get into a bunch of things.
Yeah, definitely. You always want to expand and push yourself, and that's the mentality you've shown since you were a young kid.
For sure.
So it's been great. Cheers for taking the time today, mate. It's been great hearing from your journey so far and exciting things you're up to now in the future.
I'm excited.
But before we go, what's some advice you could offer out there to future and even current student athletes still competing, or maybe thinking about committing to a college to play sports?
I guess for the people who haven't gotten there, who haven't gotten to college yet, who are still looking at schools, I would say, yes, you're going there for that school, but you still have to take classes there. So make sure that school has what you want. Hopefully, I would try to develop an outside interest, because, you know, injuries do happen, and they're awful things that happen, but it's a reality. So you kind of have to. I personally would try to plan ahead. Or, like, if you have a hobby that you're doing, don't let go of that hobby. I would say always kind of hold it close, because it's something else that is another part of your identity. Because let's say if you did lose your sport, you still have this other thing not to fall back on, but something there that was always there, you know. To current student athletes, I would say, I don't know, keep doing what you're doing. I mean, if it's treating you well and that's your goal, that you want to go professional, just put everything you have into it. Something that, like, I'd always had the concept of working hard, because I was on the field training all the time. I was at track training all the time. And thankfully, it kind of transferred over to the fashion business, where I'm kind of up all the time. Like, I'm working almost all the time, making phone calls, emails, trying to find manufacturers, just like never really taking no for an answer, kind of just grinding to get what I want. Just kind of you make your own reality, basically. And if you don't end up getting what you want, it's solely on you. And that's something that my dad kind of instilled in me from a young age, is that if you want it, you just got to figure out a way. Yeah, that's something that actually Coach Bondi would always say during huddles: just find a way. Find a way, just figure it out.
That's some great advice. Thanks a lot, mate.
Yeah,
it was always a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.